Hello, welcome along to Sportsbet TV. Paul Alster here with you, looking ahead to a very exciting weekend of great racing across Britain and Ireland. The Punchestown Festival continues, of course, but really I suppose the main focus has to be at HQ at Newmarket. It's the first classics of the season, the 1,000 and 2,000 guineas on the Rowley Mile, and I will have recommendations in both of the big races, a total of 4 selections for you over the weekend. And they'll be well worth waiting for, I hope. Now, if you're new, as ever, I always say to people, please remember to press the subscribe button just below this screen, and you'll be kept in touch with all my selections, which are invariably horses at pretty big odds, and which over the course of time, since we've been doing this really since the start of the National Hunt season, have proved very, very profitable. I have to say that April's been a thin month. Thursday's selections, well, Voix de Rêve was unplaced. He got a bump at the first fence, and although he ran well for a long way, he just wasn't good enough as it turned out. So that was a bit of a disappointing effort, but there was a big run from Sole Pretender in the Stayers Hurdle on Thursday at Punchestown. I thought he may possibly be getting right in there and a possible winner as they jumped the third last. But then I saw Willie Mullins's horse, Classical Dream, just emerge there as if he just joined in before the turn. In the end, Sole Pretender, trying 3 miles for the first time, didn't quite get home, but his 5th place was very creditable. And believe me, at around 2.5 miles, he is a horse you really must follow. He's a very, very classy sort. Now, as I just mentioned, we started this service seriously at the start of the jump season in early October. And I'm happy to say that I'm able to show you a graphic here that gives an indication of how we've done. These are to my recommended stakes, which are usually £10 each way. For most of my bets are each way. And on very rare occasions, the £10 win bets. We started off in October and showed a small profit there of £30.50. In November, we had a terrific month, £793.25 profit. There was another decent profit in December of £65. And moving into the middle of the jump season, £108 in January 2021 to level stakes, to recommended stakes. Then £56 profit in February. March, of course, courtesy of a fabulous Cheltenham Festival, and a good week or two after that, we showed a great profit, £1,317. And then April, as I said, our first losing month, 456. That's prior to Kescon Risk, who is due to run. And as long as he's 3-1 or bigger, we'll have our recommended bet, which you can check on my previous bulletin. So just allowing for that one horse still to run, the profit overall for the 7 months to the recommended stakes, £1,913.75. And that is why it's worth sticking with me and following my regular bulletins. We'll always have good periods and then some fallow periods, but overall, we're showing great profits. And as I say time and again, this is not a sprint. It's about the marathon, about the whole season, about the whole year. And overall, we're showing tremendous profits. And I hope that's going to be the case as we move into May for this weekend and start off with the classics. We're at Newmarket. The ground is pretty quick, good to firm ground. And we've got 3 recommendations Saturday, and we've got 1 for Sunday, which is in the 1,000 guineas. Now, starting off on Saturday, I take you to Newmarket for the 3 o'clock, which is the Group 2 Jockey Club Stakes. Now, there are just 5 runners here. This is a really good 1.5 mile contest. We've got Pile Driver, who won, of course, the King Edward VII Stakes. He won the Great Voltigeur Stakes, and then he finished 3rd in the St. Leger, trained by William Muir, who's now shares his stables with Chris Grassick, and they train the horses together. He is a fine horse who has to be respected. The Unknown Quantity really is a horse called Al Zarakan. He's trained by William Haggis, and he's won 4 of his 5 races, including 3 handicaps. And on the all-weather at Kempton, over 1 mile and 3 furlongs in March, he won very easily off 95, has been put up to a mark now of 107. He's very much a talking horse. And the other one of the 3 market principles is Sir Ron Priestley. Now, Sir Ron Priestley is my selection. He's trained by Mark Johnston up there in Middleham. and the mount of veteran jockey and one-time very useful boxer, Franny Norton. Now, Sir Ron Priestley was a cracking good three-year-old. That was 2 years ago in the 2019 season. He won a 1.75 mile, £100,000 handicap at Haydock. He then went on to win a red-hot 1.5 mile handicap at Glorious Goodwood. And then after that, he went back to Goodwood, up into Group 3 company. And over 1.5 miles, he won the March Stakes, which is a really good St Ledger trial. He then went on to the St Ledger itself, Group 1 at Doncaster, September 2019, and he finished a great second to the very smart winner, Logician. But after that, he had a few niggling problems, and he missed all of last season. And indeed, we didn't see him until he reappeared in a listed race at Nottingham over 1.75 miles, and that was just a couple of weeks ago. Now, the reports were, and they were confirmed after the race by Charlie Johnston, the trainer's son and assistant trainer, that he was overweight. He was much heavier than his normal racing weight. So it's even more creditable that he won in hugely impressive fashion. He really was good, and he beat Ocean Wind, who's a good horse, who went on just earlier this week in the Sagaro Stakes to fail by just a length to beat Stradivarius. So this form stacks up, and he's looking pretty hot to me. Now, the Johnstons believe they've got Sir Ron Priestley back to where he was at the time of the Ledger, and that he's fitter than he was at Nottingham when he won pulling a cart. And so I think that he's probably going to make the running because he stays further, but he handles the quick ground, and he is a very rare win bet for me. And at the time of this recording on early Friday afternoon, he's 5-2 with all firms. And I think that's a fair price. You may well get a little bit bigger as the markets fluctuate a bit. But 5-2 win, Sir Ron Priestley, Saturday in the 3 o'clock, the Group 2 Jockey Club Stakes is my first selection of the weekend. And then I'll take you on to the first classic of the season. Well, it's always a great race, the 2000 Guineas. We can go back to so many wonderful winners and great memories in the race. El Gran Senor back in the 80s and so many other wonderful horses. Frankel, of course, with the most breathtaking win ever in the race. But over the last 22, 23 years, Aidan O'Brien has dominated with 10 wins. His first was with King of Kings back in 1998, and he's gone on to win it with the likes of Rock of Gibraltar and George Washington and Camelot and Glen Eagles and Churchill. And he's set to run 3 in this year's renewal, which is at 3:40 on Saturday. There are 15 runners in total. Now he's running Wembley, Battleground and Van Gogh. Those are his 3 runners. And at the time of the recording, they're offering 9-2 the field. This is a really open renewal of the 2000 Guineas. And there are going to be some horses that improve from last season, some who go backwards from last season. But Aidan's got 3 in it. Wembley, who was second to Joseph O'Brien's Thunder Moon in the Group 1 National Stakes over 7 furlongs. He is just favourite with some firms. He went on to be second to St Mark's Basilica, stable companion, in the Group 1 Dewhurst Stakes, which for many judges is seen as the best 2-year-old race and classic guide for this season, and that's worth bearing in mind as I go forward. Now, Battleground won the Vintage Stakes at Goodwood. That was a Group 2. He then went on to be second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. He ran a wonderful race there. And the other Aidan O'Brien runner is the Progressive Van Gogh, who won a Group 1 in heavy ground at St Cloud in November. Now, that's normally a bit of a weak Group 1, but he's clearly a horse of a lot of ability, and he stays. Whether he'll be quite as effective on the fast ground remains to be seen. Now, the aforementioned Thunder Moon, who beat Wembley, is representing Joseph O'Brien. He's a very smart horse. He won the National Stakes and then went on to be 3rd in the Dewhurst, just behind Wembley, in the race won by St Mark's Basilica. Now, Godolphin are represented here. They've got Master of the Sea, who won the Craven Stakes and was fit going into that from running at Meydan in Dubai. They've got One Ruler, who beat Van Gogh in a Group 3 at Newmarket last October and went on to be second in the Group 1 Virtum Futurity, the old Racing Post Trophy, which has been a good guide to this race as well. Of course, Kamiko won that last year, 2 years ago, before going on to win the Guineas last year. And Naval Crown, who beat Master of the Seas in Maydown, he also will run for Godolphin. Now, when you throw into the mix as well, Musterbeck for Charles Hills, who's unbeaten in 2 runs at a lower level, but there's been a lot of money for him, and he's the son of a 1,000 guineas winner, Gennady. You've got Jim Bolger's Poetic Flair, who's a very talented horse. Only defeat came in the Dewhurst when they were baffled, but probably the soft ground was against him. He'll love the rattling quick ground, and he's already won a good listed race in Ireland this month. We've got Chindit for Richard Hannon, who's won 4 from 5, and he won the Greenham Stakes at Newbury. And another Irish runner of interest, Lucky Vega for Jesse Harrington, who's a Group 1 winner. But that was over 6 furlongs in the Phoenix Stakes at the Curragh last summer. Went on to be second in the Middle Park Stakes over 6 furlongs at Newmarket last season. If he stays, he could be a danger to all. But I'm taking you back again to that Dewhurst Stakes, so often a real marker for the classics. It was won by St Mark's Basilica, who doesn't run here. Then we had Wembley, who was beaten 3/4 of a length. There was a length and 3/4 back to the third horse, Joseph's horse, Thunder Moon. And just a neck further back was a horse called Devil Waller. Now, Devil Waller is set to run in the 2,000 guineas on Saturday. The current odds are that Wembley is 9-2, Thunder Moon is 11-2, and Devil Waller is 100-1, even though he's only neck behind the Thunder Moon, who's offered at 11-2. So if, like me, you're somebody that looks for value, and through the form book, a neck difference, 11-2 to 100-1, it has to be investigated. Now, he ran a really good race in the Dewhurst, did Devil Waller. He's trained by Rafe Beckett, and he's the mount of Rossa Ryan. Now, remember that Rafe Beckett has won classics, he's won a St Ledger, and he's won 2 Oaks, so he knows the kind of horse required to run and perform really well in a classic. And amongst those 3 winners, one won at 33s and another one at 20s. So his horses normally go off at big prices in classics, and he's proved the bookies wrong a few times. Now, Devil Waller was 4th in that Dewhurst, and if you watch the race, he was racing on the stand side. He led them going down into the dip. He led them coming out of the dip. The action, though, developed towards the centre of the track, and he was under the stand's rails. But having dropped a couple or 3 lengths off the pace, he was staying on again up the hill, and he was closing in on Thunder Moon to challenge for 3rd place. Now, last season, he showed a lot of really good form. He was originally trained by Archie Watson. He won on his debut at Haydock. He was then second in the Gimcrack, which is often another good guide to this race. And then later on, as I say, he went on to run in the Dewhurst and run really well. So well, in fact, they sent him to America for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile turf. But it all went wrong at the start when he was very slowly away. He lost about 7 or 8 lengths. Amazingly, he managed to finish 8th of 14. And again, that shows this horse has a lot of ability. Now, he has had a run so far this season. It was in the Craven Stakes, where he reportedly was expected to come on for the run. He led again to a furlong out, and then no extra when 4th behind Master of the Seas. But it transpired that he'd lost a shoe during the course of the race. And losing a shoe very often can be described a bit like a car with a puncture. You're just not quite balanced properly, and that would have affected him, especially going up, down and then back up the dip. So I'm expecting him to be better for the run, to return to a track at which he's always performed well, to race prominently, and at 100-1 for 4 places, Paddy Power, Betfair, Bet365, and if you have an exchange account, I'm sure you're going to find bigger. I just think he's a sporting bet to run very well. And it's my view that if he finished 3rd or 4th at those odds, it's going to be better than backing one of the market principles at 9-2, 5-1, or 11-2. So while on the face of it, you may be saying, oh gosh, this looks ridiculous, 100-1 shot. Remember, Bilston Brook won the Guineas at 1,000 guineas at 66-1. And we've had all sorts of big price winners going in major races over the last few seasons. So Devil Waller for the 2,000 guineas on Saturday. For Rafe Beckett and Rossa Ryan, let's see if he gives us a shout at 100-1. Now, one other recommendation on Saturday is across at Punchestown. It's in the 4:30, the 3-mile handicap chase. There are 20 runners. no prices are shown at the time of this recording on early Friday. So we are shooting a little bit in the dark here. Sam Brown is very interesting for the Honeyball yard that had a winner on Thursday, and great to see another British success over at Punchestown. And he's been kept French since running in November, so clearly he's been targeted at the race. Now, leading owner JP McManus has 5 runners. Amongst those, I think Castle Oliver and 1010, who was left at the start earlier in the week, are both interesting. And Rachel Blackmore rides for Henry de Bromhead on a horse called Po Pong, who was still there with every chance in a red-hot 2-mile 1 furlong handicap at Leopardstown on Boxing Day when falling, and has been rested since then. But my view here is that there's a horse called Jer and Me, trained by our old friend Noel Mead. I recommended a horse of his earlier in the week. It came third, ran and showed us a profit each way. Sean Flanagan, once again, is in the saddle. Now, this horse was really progressive last summer. He rattled up a hat-trick of wins to between 2 and 3 miles. And then he's had a break of some 202 days. So obviously they didn't want to touch the winter ground. He was given a bit of a pipe opener, let's say, over just 2 miles at Fairyhouse on April the 4th. He needed the run. He finished 9th of 15. He should be absolutely spot on now. I think he's got a really solid each way chance, and I think the ground will suit him ideally as long as there's not too much more rain. Now, it's very hard to estimate the price. I've seen little bits and pieces of estimates. Indeed, Timeform on their forecast go 22 to 1, which I think might be rather generous. I'm suggesting that he'll be around 14 to 1, 14 to 1. And if you can find each way for 5 places in that 20-runner field, then I think he's worth a little bit each way. That is Jer and Me at Punchestown in the 4:30, the 3-mile handicap chase. And then I'll take you on to Sunday, the 2nd of May. Just the one recommendation there. It's in the feature race at 3:40 again at Newmarket, the Quipco 1000 Guineas. Another wonderful race on the Rowley Mile, this time 12 run. So a nice sized field of 12. Aidan O'Brien has won 4 of the last 5, so he is the man to fear. He's won a total of 6, I believe, 1000 Guineas. Now, the biggest feature of this race is a monster gamble. I mean, they've really gone to town on Santa Barbara. This filly, who I think is by Camelot, won an ordinary race on debut in September at the Curragh over a mile. The horses that finished 2nd and 3rd have gone on to run a few times since, and they're basically rated around mid-80s, about 87, maybe up to 90 at tops. So the form hasn't particularly worked out well, certainly not that would make you think that the winner would win a classic. But having been offered at 33 to 1, Santa Barbara has been back down now to 6 to 4, 11 to 8, even 5 to 4 places. Apparently, she's been doing the most extraordinary work at home. And you have to respect Aidan O'Brien. He's probably the greatest, or one of the 2 or 3 greatest trainers of all time. But we've heard it before about horses that have been catching pigeons on the gallops and now the next Pegasus. It doesn't always work out. And coming to a classic off just 1 win in a maiden, she is going to have to be a real world-class filly to win. To handle the dip, I'm sure they've trained her going down into a dip and back up again. And I just think that the price is ridiculous. She may well go and win. She may well prove to be a superstar. But can you really step in on a once-raced filly that's only won a maiden, the form of which hasn't truly been frank particularly, at odds of 11 to 8, 5 to 4, I think it's ridiculous. But I do respect the horse. She may win. Who knows? Now, Aidan also runs Mother Earth, who was placed in the Bet365 Fillies Mile in October over the course and distance, and went on to run really well when placed in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies at Keeneland. So she's a very interesting candidate with more experience. We've got Alcohol Free, who won the Fred Darling, and also, that was just recently, and also won the Chiefly Park Stakes last season for Andrew Balding and Oisin Murphy. A really good filly. Wouldn't surprise to see her run well. The one I don't fancy, and that's probably going to bolt up, is William Haggas's horse, Sacred. Tom Marquand on board. This one very nearly won the Flying Childers, which is for the fast 5 furlong horses last September. I find it remarkable to think she could be good enough to stay a mile, a fast run mile, when she very nearly won over 5 furlongs. And I know she's run well in other races over further, but I'll be surprised to see her win. Saffron Beach is interesting for Jane Chappell-Hyam. She was second in the Nell Gwyn, and she could run well for a small Newmarket yard. But my choice here is one for the north. Fev Rover is trained by Richard Fahey and is the mount of Paul Hannigan. Now, they've put cheek pieces on this filly for the first time. She really was a very smart 2-year-old. She won a listed 7 furlong race at Sandown last July on good to firm ground, so she'll handle the surface. She went over to France after that, to Deauville, and she won the Group 2 Prix Calvados in August, which was a fine performance. And then she was sent off favourite at Longchamp at the Arc meeting for the Group 1 Prix Marcel Boussac over a mile, and she was really unlucky. She was hampered twice and blocked, eventually finishing 4th in that race to Tiger Tanaka, and connections feel she would have gone very close, even though the very heavy ground was against her. Now, one thing Richard Fahey has gone on record as saying about Fev Rover is that as far as he can see in everything she's done, she has trained on. He believes that a mile this season will be her bare minimum, and that 1.25 miles might prove to be her very best trip. But she's been working well, and the fast run mile will bring her stamina into play. And I think she's got a really solid each way chance. And Richard Fahey, as we know, is a terrific trainer. He's won Group 1s all over the place with some very high class horses over the years. And he is confident she is going to do herself justice. And I'm happy to go with him. The price on offer at the time of this recording for 3 places in the 12-runner field is generally 16 to 1 each way. And I think that is a very fair price. And given her form of last season, I have to say that if she was trained by a Gosden or a Haggis or something like that, an O'Brien, I think she'd be single figures. And Richard Fahey is a Group 1 trainer. He's a great trainer. And I think 16 to 1 is possibly a little too generous. I certainly hope so, and I hope we're on it when she runs well. So fingers crossed for Fev Rover. My only concern is the dip. Some horses just find it hard to run down and back up, but we shall see. I think she will give the North a tremendous run for our money. So that's my 4th and final selection as we move into May and our flat season across Britain and Ireland. I hope you've noted those down. I wish you the best of luck. And I look forward to you joining me again for my next bulletin. If you haven't done so, press the subscribe button. But for now, enjoy the classics and enjoy the rest of Punchestown. Paul Alster signing off. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.